Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to look at the new melee from the Deimos Arcana update, the Pulmonars. You can grab the blueprints to craft this infested melee from the market. If we were going to build this weapon up, it would look something like this. This first build here is mainly just for the Starchart. I'm not going to go over this build too much or give a demonstration since it's just a build that you don't really need any setup or anything, and you can just run through trashing all the Starchart nodes. It is not appropriate for Steel Path. So let's take a look at the second build. First, we're going to start off with Condition Overload. This is a heavily status-based weapon with a decent amount of crit, so we're not going to go the primed pressure point route, plus any endurance-based build will be focusing on statuses instead. We're going to be boosting our status further with Voltaic Strike and Weeping Wounds. This will let us climb easily past 100% status chance, giving us chances at corrosive or viral procs every single hit. Now we're going to slap on Primed Reach to make these nunchucks easier to use, as they don't exactly have that much reach. This will also make it easier to spread status and build combo. Next, we're sticking on Blood Rush for that extra scaling crit chance, and then we're going to run Primed Fever Strike to offset running a 60-60 mod. This will boost our corrosive much higher, increasing our damage output. Now we're also going to run Drifting Contact for that extra combo duration and status chance, and finally Organ Shatter so that our Blood Rush has actual damage to scale off of. You'll notice this weapon has a 9-second base combo duration, which comes in pretty handy as quality of life. So let's spawn our level 145 Corrupted Heavy Gunners now. I've got my Helios with me modded as a stat stick with a Gladiator set bonus, but aside from that I don't really have any other buffs going on. So let's get into it. You can see this weapon doesn't have too many issues dealing with the enemies. The damage scales pretty fast and well. The range is very appreciable with Primed Reach. The only problem is the weapon feels a bit clunky to use, intermittently locking you into place for certain parts of combos. I like to use the right click plus E combo, as it seems the most natural to use, rarely restricting my movement. Of course, no melee analysis is correct without looking at the full 12x stack scenario, so let's look at that. You can demolish enemies with ease at 12x, and that range is extremely noticeable in how fast we just mowed everything down. That said, the damage could probably be a little bit better, but it is definitely something that we can work with and I think can pull off decently well in Steel Path. So now let's look at another build focused towards the end game. This is a build that sacrifices range and initial status for a higher damage ceiling. You'll see here that we aren't running any 60-60 mods. All of our status is going to be coming from Weeping Wounds, and all of our crit chances coming from Blood Rush. We're focusing on our high corrosive base weight, as well as slotting in our Primed Smite for the appropriate faction instead of Primed Reach. You will have to compensate a bit for this loss of range, but I believe this increased total damage output will be very useful in, say, if you wanted to bring this weapon into Disruption. Because we're no longer running Drifting Contact, the Naramon Focus School is extremely important here to maintain our combo counter without having it completely fall off. We're looking for a Power Spike Focus node, which will cause our combo counter to only drop by 5 instead of completely expiring if we fail to keep our hits up. Now, like our previous build, we're missing a little bit of attack speed. Unlike the Starchart build that was running Berserker, we're going to have to source this from Arcanes instead. So for the first time, I'm going to take a look at my Protea here and slap on some Arcanes. We're going with Arcane Strike since it procs on per hit and the nunchucks hit multiple times per swing. It should be very easy to get this going. Your other arcane options are either Arcane Avenger to hit extremely steady orange crits and getting a bunch of reds, or Arcane Fury. For our demonstration purposes, I'm going to go with Fury since Avenger will be a little bit harder to demonstrate while trying to showcase the damage. So we're going to spawn our enemies here one more time and hop right in to start building our combo. You can see it makes pretty quick work of the enemies. It's a little bit hard to say how much of this is due to the change in build, as the Arcanes definitely will make a bit of a difference. But let's see how it performs fully stacked at 12x combo. it seems to have a slightly faster TTK. Part of it's probably attributed to the Arcane Strike and Fury, but I have a feeling that we did manage to pull off higher damage numbers in the end as well. Now let's switch over to our Eidolon setup. As usual, we're going to be resorting to our Volt. When you're doing a melee DPS, there are very few other frame choices you can use, as Volt brings a lot of firepower as well as a massive speed boost that is useful for pulling off your heavy attacks. What's going to be crucial to this build is aerodynamic to significantly increase the amount of time I can hover in the air so I can set up my limb breaks, as well as aero vantage so that we stay level in the horizontal plane. Modus signal will be important to increase the height of my secondary jump so that I can achieve the height I need. For our Arcanes, we're going to be running Arcane Fury, as I feel this weapon has slight damage issues based on our early testing. This procs on a critical hit, which should be very easy to set up with Hero's Covenant active. For our other Arcane, we're running Avenger, as this weapon cannot seem to hit consistent orange crits otherwise. I'm probably also going to ask my squad to bring in a Darza's, as we're going to need every single ounce of crit chance that we can get. Our weapon is only going to be running at 2x combo, so I'm not going to be able to get that high scaling from Blood Rush that you could otherwise get in normal play. Let's take a look at the weapon build. I'm going to be running Spoiled Strike for that extra base damage. The minus attack speed is inconsequential, as Volt's 2 completely offsets this negative. I'm going to be running Strain Infection for another massive source of critical damage, as it is much stronger than Gladiator Might and will probably spend more time above what Might can give, despite the fact that Strain Infection is a bit of a fluctuating bonus. I'm also going to run Amalgam Organ Shatter for that extra windup while contributing more crit damage, Killing Blow for that extra base damage once again, while even reducing our windup further. I'm only going to be slotting in Molten Impact since we're going to make Radiation with Shock Trooper. Corrupt Charge is here so that we can hit 2x combo and hit twice as hard on our heavy. I'm only running rank 2 as that is all you need to hit 2x combo. I might want to build up a little bit for the cap shot, that's why we're only running rank 2 so that there is a decent amount of combo duration remaining. Now the most important part of this build is the 2 sacrificial mods, Sacrificial Steel and Sacrificial Pressure. Steel is giving us a massive crit chance buff that doubles on the heavy attack while providing a sentient bane. Sacrificial Pressure is a pressure point that scales off the set bonus of having both Umbras there while also providing us with another sentient bane. Without these 2 mods, you are losing massive amounts of damage, which is why I must equip it here. For our companion, I'm going to be bringing our Helminth Charger. You need to equip a Helminth Charger for the Strain Infection mod to work, otherwise there are no cysts for the mod to use as a scaling effect. I'm going to run the other 2 Strain mods on my Helminth so that I can increase that set bonus further, allowing our Strain Infection to scale higher. Obviously, I'm going to need a Hitscan weapon to deal with Water Limb, so I'm bringing my trusty Volcar with this Riven. Volcars take a lot of time to reload, so for my Pandero, I'm opting for the Synth Charge version instead of the Barrel Diffusion of my config this time. This way, I will never have to spend time reloading my Volcar, as it will be regaining the ammo it's lost in the magazine while it's holstered. That's it for the builds. Let's spawn our Dracarmanic Bombards at level 110 and begin this testing process. I'm going to cast my Shock Trooper and pull out my melee. I'm going to hit him a few times to set up the Arcane Fury, cast my speed, and I'm going to set up from behind so I don't want to accidentally hit their heads. Now for our first swing, you'll see I missed. This is why melee runs are so hard, as you don't want to run too high range due to certain complications with the hitbox. You can see here I can't take them out in one shot, but remember the Sentient Bane is not applying and there is no hero here, so I'm not getting those near guaranteed orange crits I would get otherwise. You can see my damage fluctuates a little bit depending on how many cysts my Helminth decides to make, but I believe the damage output here will be probably enough, and I'm excited to see how this turns out. For the cap shots, I'm just going to swing at the head, and that's probably going to be a guaranteed orange and one-shot it outright. For Rivens, this weapon can probably benefit from attack speed, as it has pretty low attack speed at 0.9 for this nunchuck weapon archetype. We don't really have space to fit it on the final builds and are being forced to use it as an arcane. You could probably fit more synergies in if you could just relegate this stat to a Riven instead. More range would also be awesome as our final build does not have primed reach, so being able to slot that in would help immensely and make the weapon feel a lot more fluid, as nunchuck stances are a little bit clunky. I believe this weapon has a pretty bright future ahead of it, but it isn't really a standout. It is definitely viable in Steel Path, and I'm looking forward to trying it out myself there. Thank you all for watching, and that'll be it for this video. See you all next time.